Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. ¿Cómo estás, chico?
Doing well, and great job getting that intro up on your own, man.
Yeah, Sean's not here today.
Yeah, I see that. So, man, impressive. Two jobs at once.
I am. I'm running the show myself and everything, so I'm trying. I'm trying.
Showing your versatility,
folks. We are in hurricane season, so make sure you save Jeff and Dan's number down, because if something happens, you're going to need adjusters. You don't ever call the insurance company, ever. You call Welt Rheaume first. They send their adjusters. They do their job, and then they attack the insurance company for you, so you never have to deal with it. 954-966-4646. And I know a lot of people are dealing with bankruptcy issues. Credit card debt is at an all-time high for our country, so it can happen to any of us. 954-966-4646. All right, doggy. I thought the Steelers did the Dolphins an enormous favor yesterday. Your thoughts on that trade?
Yeah, there's two ways to look at it. Is one, if you just look at it on paper and you say, okay, compare Jalen Ramsey plus Jonnu Smith to Minkah Fitzpatrick and the pick swap, then yeah, you could look at it one way, which I know my colleague Dave Hyde said he looked at it in a negative fashion, but it's different because you already knew you had to get rid of Jalen Ramsey. So, and you already knew you were in a tough spot. And we talked about it was actually months, that the Dolphins were in a precarious situation where you figured they weren't going to get much, or they had to have the team that they send Jalen Ramsey to, where they had to pony up a lot of the cash in order to send him there and maybe still get like the pick that they ended up getting, like a 5th rounder or something, while still giving up some of that salary. I'm just
wondering, why did I didn't read it? Why did Dave Hyde take a negative slant on it? I'm trying to figure this out. Is he trying to say that the Dolphins aren't a better team?
Right, not a better team with Jalen Ramsey gone, but I think you have to put yourself in the mindset of Jalen Ramsey was already gone. Yeah, that was already.
So wait a minute. I'm sorry. Does Dave Hyde think the Dolphins were making noise anyway, one way or the other? I'm sorry. What reality does Dave Hyde live in? I'd like to fucking know that one, really, because who gives a shit, dude? They unloaded a disgruntled player you could not bring back that was overpaid in Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
The agent made a horrible deal, so he had to get out of this bad tight end contract. That Chris Greer made a beautiful deal, and he was in total control, but he doesn't know who the offensive coordinator is going to be next year. So why is he going to pay him $12 million? So if the stupid ass Steelers want to pay him $12 million in a year that Rodgers is not there, think about that one, by the way. I want you to think about that one. And then you get a 5th rounder for a 7th rounder. You're not going anywhere this year. So for the future, you have now improved a 4th rounder to a 3rd. You now switched a 7th rounder to a 5th. Okay? You unloaded bad salaries. You're saving $6 million. I'm not sure what fantasy land Dave Hyde lives in, but the Dolphins were going nowhere before this trade, and they're going nowhere after this trade. But for the future, this is a beautiful trade, dude. It's a genius trade to make a really bad situation, oh my God, so palatable. It's amazing. This was an awesome trade out of a terrible situation. Dave Hyde might be trying to create sensationalism here, because to say, well, the Dolphins aren't as good a team. Bro, the Dolphins suck anyways. What the hell are you talking about? They're not going anywhere. They're not going to the playoffs. So who gives a shit whether they have Jalen Ramsey or not? So sorry to vent, but just kind of find it ridiculous. Ball's in your court.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I was even going to pose. But I was even going to pose a question to you. Do you do not now feel like the Dolphins can make some noise in 2025? But you answered it right there. So we'll keep.
You have not been paying attention for months now. I've already said this season is done, dude.
Yeah, right.
I've already told you this season is a transition year. This is about the charade of going through firing Mike McDaniel because they can't fire him now and look completely stupid because they gave him a brand new contract. They realize they already screwed up, but it's after the fact. So we're going through the charade of this season. And the way they've handled the offseason and free agency and everything else, it's like he's staying and McDaniel's gone, bro. Okay, because think about it. Okay, let me ask you something. This team's going nowhere. So you're going to end up with 7 wins, 8 wins. Maybe you have a great year. You end up with 9 and you don't get into the playoffs, or you barely get in, you get embarrassed, whatever. So you're going to have the balls to turn around and say, we're coming back with Mike McDaniel next year because, we wanted to take a step back salary-wise, adjust everything, and then we could go forward next year because we'll have cap space and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that can sell to the public after another year of shortcomings with Mike McDaniel? Of course not. They know that. So we're going through the charade of waiting for him to get fired at some point this season. That's what's happening. By the way, buddy, didn't I tell you that the season was over when the Colts game and the loss was there, and then you kept with the hopium, and so did everybody else, and I kind of told you it was over? Didn't I say that? And by the way, I also said that the Heat weren't going anywhere this year either, and they didn't go anywhere this year. And by the way, they're going nowhere next year too. We could just talk. I'm just willing to be honest where a lot of you aren't willing to be honest because you can't. Because you can't really be honest. Like, you can't be honest that Drew Rosenhaus fucked up the Jonnu Smith deal. And the problem for the Dolphins, it wasn't a Dolphins problem, dude. It was a dumb agent that made a bad deal that created a problem for his client. The Dolphins did nothing except, bro, they made a great deal. Nobody looks at it that way. That's the way it's supposed to be told. The Dolphins did an exceptional job with Jonnu Smith. They got a bargain. They just had to pay a price because the agent was really stupid, and they got him and they schooled his ass. And so now he had to go justify it for his client and go find $12 million. That's the real story here. Nobody tells the real story about what it really happened. This was a complete Drew Rosenhaus fuck up that he's trying to make up. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, dude, Dolphins aren't going anywhere before or after this deal. Tell Dave Hyde that too. And by the way, if Hyde thinks they're going somewhere before or after, whatever, if he wants to put any money on it, I'd love to take his money because that would be the easiest money I can take. Yeah. Seriously. Like, do you really think the Dolphins are going somewhere, dude? Really?
I'm steadfast in saying I think it's like a situation where they have a playoff scenario week 18 and probably need some help that they don't get or lose that game, and they end up
if they get in
around 500, 9-8, 8-9, one of those.
Or if they get in, what? Or if they get in, what?
If they get in, it's as a 6 or 7 seed going on the road and losing somewhere.
Right. Another Dolphin season, bro.
Right.
Another Dolphin season. That's all. You know what I mean? Just know it. And so if that happens, how do you have the balls to come back with Mike McDaniel? You don't.
Oh, no, yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't. You definitely would not in another season of missing the playoffs.
And then happens. The season expires and Weaver interviews, but Weaver has the power to go wherever he wants at that point. That's why you fire him during the season, give him the interim job, and then by the end of the interim job at the end of the year, if you're convinced, have that extension before the season expires, and he'll take that guaranteed money right there and then.
But the way I see the season playing out is that it's not going to be like early in the year, mid-year, not like last season where like you could see it's already kind of over. You called it at the Colts game. I was saying, well, Tua's just now going to be coming back. It's still early. let's see. But then they lost that Arizona game at home, and that's when I was kind of like on with you, like, yeah, bro, because they're not going to win against Buffalo, and then you're talking about, well, they were 2-6 at that point, so we knew what it was then. But yeah, I see this season playing out the other way, where I think they get off to a strong start. I think they have a strong first half, and then it's the typical of Dolphins of old collapse. I don't know if you want to, if you call it a collapse, but there will be worse in the second half, and then they'll fall back into the spot of now you're just trying to scratch and claw for the last playoff spot, and then they'll end up just out of it. That's how I see next season playing out. So it might not be a situation where it's clear early on, all right, see, this season's over and we're out with Mike McDaniel. I think that wouldn't happen until the end of the year.
And so do you give the Dolphins a win in this trade?
Yeah. So at end of the day, I would say the Dolphins get a win, because when we previously were thinking about both the Jalen Ramsey situation and the Jonnu Smith situation individually, let's say, we would have thought, okay, so Jalen Ramsey, they're going to have to pay up so maybe like a third of it, let's say, and get a 5th round pick or something. So they ended up much better than that. Jonnu Smith, for his contract, considering that a team would then also have to increase his salary, give him the pay that he wants as a now incumbent Pro Bowler from last season, coming off the season he had. And you probably expected a similar draft pick, a day 3 draft pick for him. So you ended up in return netting a Minkah Fitzpatrick and bringing him back, where actually as a DB different, he's play safety, and Jalen Ramsey was on the boundary. I don't know how the Steelers will use him over there, but yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can. He's so versatile, but you get a little bit younger there in the secondary with your top DB. Now he's 28, 5-time Pro Bowler. I know a lot of people talk about last season. He maybe a little bit on the downfall. Still was a Pro Bowler. Sometimes the voting can be like a career achievement award. I know like Xavier Howard got one like that. Jalen Ramsey with the Dolphins got a Pro Bowl selection like that, where he didn't really have a Pro Bowl season, but just based off his name, he might still get it. So I understand that part of it, but still a player who maybe even fits better into Anthony Weaver's scheme than he did a little bit at the end in Pittsburgh there. And you get him back. Yeah. So you had high hopes for him when the Dolphins drafted him in the first round. He proved himself, especially early on in Pittsburgh, to be that guy. And then he can kind of rekindle that here in Miami, as he still has some prime years left.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. What did you read into the $1.5 million they gave him? Because I know what that was, but just out of curiosity.
Oh, for Jalen Ramsey, the Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
$1.5 million. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what you're getting to here. I mean,
you know that wasn't a raise. That's moving expenses.
Moving expenses. Okay, yeah, I see that. Mm-hmm.
That's what that is. It's a new house. It's moving the kids. It's moving the wife. It's all that stuff. That $1.5 million is moving expenses.
Difference in taxes.
Rent a house, more, all that kind of stuff for the year or two that you're going to be there, because he won't buy a house there. He'll rent a house there. So that $1.5 million is the moving expenses. Is what it is. So that way his client doesn't lose anything. He doesn't lose from his money having to move to Pittsburgh, move the kids, schooling, whatever. If he wants to do all of that, there's going to be expenses. So if you would have made a straight up trade, it would have cost him money, because he's going to Pennsylvania where it's different than here. And then he's got to have expenses. So a lot of people think, oh, he got a raise. No, he didn't really. It's the $1.5 million is to cover the moving expenses.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it like that. So.
Yeah, that's the business move of, oh, no, yeah, I'd love to play for you guys. Yeah, but wait a minute. I'm not going to lose money in the moving here. I don't want to lose my salary. And so then the Steelers had to accommodate and give him $1.5 million. And that's basically moving expenses.
And not a lot of teams are going to do that in a trade, right? Like you don't hear about just any random player getting a little bit extra because he's being traded and has moving expenses. But Jalen Ramsey, boy,
They're not going to tell you that.
That's what he wants.
But it's just like a raise. But that's really what that money's for, actually.
Yeah.
It's really what it's for, because you that's the part we never look. We never look at how these people have to upend their families and everything.
Right.
You know, all of a sudden, dude, you got to get car insurance there. Now you got to get a rent there, and you've got to maybe put the kids in school, and you've got to, bro, expenses. It comes with it, and they live a different lifestyle than you and I. So it might be only a couple. Like I remember when I left Deportes Byline Americas in San Francisco, Sports Byline USA, but they did a Spanish version of it, and I went to do a nationally syndicated show there. They paid my moving expenses to and fro, and I remember it was $5,000 one way and $6,000 the other. Okay. So, but that's just me. That's just
right.
So 6,000 back in
You're
90,
not making $1 million move.
57 for me in 97, by the way. So yeah, it was good. It covered the beacons and it covered, all the shit that I had to move or whatever, And so yeah, that kind of helped out, but that's what that 1.5 million is. It's not really like a pay raise or anything. It's just really that these are expenses for them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, even in my life. I mean, now I've stayed with the Sun Sentinel now. It's been more than 9 years. I'll be going on 10. I'll be going on a full decade with the Sun Sentinel soon. But when I've been in talks with, let's say, another news organization that's elsewhere, then that would come up is how they would cover some moving expenses. But like you, it would only be a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
It's not 1.5 million or whatever for Jalen Ramsey, who's.
By the way, $5,000-6,000 covered my moving expenses, so it's fine. It's fine. But I'm a normal human being like you, like everybody else. These people live at another level, bro.
Oh yeah, right. That now Jalen Ramsey isn't the one that's going to be like maybe how you might see a prototypical star athlete, like going out partying all the time, spending money at clubs and bars. I don't see him as that. He's a family man, sticks to his daughters and all that, raising them and things like that. So I don't see him like living that kind of like lavish lifestyle. Now, of course, you want a nice home. Moving expenses.
You got to move your kids.
Yeah.
You got to put them in school. You got to pay for the rent, all that shit. The Steelers are paying for all that shit. That's what that 1.5 million covers.
Yeah.
While they're there.
That part's interesting right there. And Jalen Ramsey, he always gets what he wants. He gets appeased with the new contract 1 year into the Dolphins. The year before he got the trade. Multiple times he's gotten the trade that he wants. When it was from Jacksonville to the Rams, from the Rams to the Dolphins, and then he seems very happy with this move to Pittsburgh. Even though I know going back to LA was kind of like a big thing for him if that were to develop, but the Pittsburgh ended up being the ones to come through with the best deal. So credit to his agent, David Mulugeta, because it seems like anything Jalen Ramsey wants, he gets. He gets this trade now with moving expenses covered, just a year after getting that new deal. So every year he gets what he wants.
Yep, he does. All right. So word is they're out looking for a tight end. You hear anything?
Yeah, they could. I mean, I know a lot of fans want to prop up the Kyle Pitts name. I'm not sure how much of a fit he would be, but I will say tight ends coach John Ember, he does like the in-house candidates. And I remember from Mike McDaniel's answer, which I brought back yesterday in a reaction to this trade, that he doesn't necessarily feel like it needs to be a pass-catching tight end, quote unquote, that needs to be the guy to take the pressure off of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So, sure, it's a hole that a perceived hole that could be filled with another move. I think they like how I know fans hate to hear this, but they like bringing up Julian Hill and developing him. They like what Tanner Connor has done. He had an orange jersey during either OTAs or minicamp. Now, like my mind is just like meshed them all together. But one of the practice days, he had an orange jersey, so he's been making strides. And they have Pharaoh Brown as more of like a inline blocking tight end, but that they could use for some of that stuff. Not to mention, Nick Westbrook-Akine will do a lot of the pass catching stuff as a bigger target, just labeled a wide receiver instead of a tight end. So Mike McDaniel said it could come from any of the 5 eligibles. So it doesn't need to be, it's got to be the tight end that does this. It could be the third receiver with the addition of NWI. It could be
Pelissero says they're looking for one. So what do you know about free agency? Anything out there? Or not free agency. There's nothing in free agency. What do you know about a move at all?
Yeah, nothing yet. It's early. So it would be, another subsequent move. Chris Greer is always wheeling and dealing. So now you create that one hole. You could fill it on the back end with another tight end coming in. Not to mention also cornerback. Now you finally can make a move on your free agent cornerback. That's been like that checklist item that's just been pending there for so long. Where now you got the Jalen Ramsey trade situation done. It's a 2-for-1 where you also crossed off the Jonnu Smith situation. You found the resolution there. And now, whether it's a Rasul Douglas, whether it's a Asante Samuel Jr., you can go and make your veteran cornerback move with that free agent cornerback market that's kind of remained attainable, like unlike most other positions where a lot of the top guys are now off the market.
You got an opinion on Michael Mayer that Omar threw out there? He's just a guy. He blocks. He's not a great catcher.
Yeah. I mean, he was definitely such a name coming out of the draft, but maybe hasn't lived up to that hype. But obviously, with not nearly to the level of Brock Bowers, what he's done there. So I could see it where then you find out later. Yes, Mike McDaniel was saying how he was a guy that when he was coming out in the draft, that they had their eyes all over him, and he knew he could do something with him. So I could totally see that. If I know he's been one of the names thrown out, but yeah, I could see it.
Pitts with Atlanta.
Yeah, I know he's the other name that everyone wants to throw in there, but and the Dolphins could have just had him in that draft too. But yeah, I'm not sure of the fit, but you could kind of like bring him back if you had him play like that Jonnu Smith role where what we just saw Jonnu Smith do. So you could kind of raise him back to that caliber if you brought him to Miami and ran the system the same way. We opened up a lot of things for Jonnu. Do that for Cal Pitts.
I personally want nothing to do with Mark Andrews, especially at his salary at this point of his career and coming back from injuries and that big drop he had on top of all of that. And then, I know they've already asked me about Isaiah Likely. That's ridiculous. There's no chance that Baltimore is trading Isaiah Likely. So that's really a ridiculous thing out there. I don't think either one flies, but your thoughts on those?
On Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely? Yeah, Andrews, big contract, so I wouldn't see them doing all that. That would be more of a move of, as you're saying, hey, this Dolphin season is done. I don't think they see it quite that way, but I don't think they're in a huge spending sort of frame of mind. They're still trying to compete, but not. That'll be more of like an all-in move, I would say. And Isaiah Likely, I would just find it unlikely, based just because I feel like for the Ravens, he would be that tight end of the future. They brought him in for a reason, and I think he's got good chemistry with Lamar Jackson there. So I wouldn't quite see that one playing out.
All right. What do you got working on in the Sun Sentinel so folks can check you out?
Yeah, I think just following up on this big trade. So now plan it forward. What's next for the Dolphins, and then we'll do. We haven't been up, myself and Chris Perkins, on our Dolphins deep dive in the off season podcast, taking a little break for the slow times, but we got to definitely have an emergency pod, as the kids say, for reaction to this, and we're in talks about it. I think it might be tomorrow. I think that might be what we're doing. No final word on that yet, but check it out.
Follow him on Twitter at David Furones _, and you can catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. And make sure you tell Dave Hyde that the Dolphins weren't going anywhere, bro. Not to get too bent out of shape out of all of this, bro. They dumped a lot of salary, and that was really good for them. And they got a pick for the future. 2025 ain't shit, bro. Tell them to chill out. Okay. Tell them it's just another Dolphin season, one way or another.
Yeah.
Much love, brother.
All right.
We will catch up on Friday.
Yes,
You
sir.
got it. Thank you.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.